My name is Ellie Marshall, but everyone calls me Ellie. I'm 62 years old now, living a life I never could have imagined just a few months ago. At my age, you'd think I'd be settled, maybe spending my days knitting by a window, sipping tea, or reading to my grandson, Liam, who's 10 and has the brightest laugh you've ever heard. That was my dream once, a quiet, cozy life surrounded by family. But dreams, they don't always turn out the way you plan, do they? 4 years ago, my world changed forever. My husband Robert passed away. A sudden stroke took him, right there in his workshop, surrounded by the ticking of clocks he loved to fix. Robert was a watchmaker his whole life. He had this way of making time feel precious. Ellie, he'd say, his hands steady on a tiny gear. Every second counts, so don't waste it on worry. I can still hear his voice, low and warm, like it's carried on the wind. After he was gone, our little house on Maple Lane in Sacramento felt too big, too quiet. Every corner held a memory. The kitchen table where we'd play cards on rainy evenings, the garden out back where Robert grew roses, red ones because he knew they were my favorite, his workshop, still smelling of polish and metal, with a half-finished clock on the bench. I'd wander through those rooms, touching things he'd touched, like I could hold on to him a little longer. But the silence, it was louder than any clock. I tried to fill the emptiness. I joined a book club at the library where we'd sip coffee and argue about Jane Austen. I tended the roses, though they never bloomed quite as bright without Robert. I even started talking to the sparrows that visited my bird feeder, silly as that sounds. But no matter what I did, there was this ache, this longing for family, for connection. My son Nathan was all I had left. He's 38 now, works as a logistics manager for a shipping company. Steady job, good head on his shoulders, or so I thought. Nathan's always been a bit distant, ever since he was a teenager. He'd roll his eyes when I'd fuss over. Him call me overprotective, but he's my boy, and I love him fiercely. His wife, Claire, runs a small bakery downtown. She's got this polished smile and a knack for making you feel special, at least at first. And then there's Liam, their son, my grandson. That boy. He's got Robert's eyes, deep brown and curious, like he's always figuring out the world. Nathan came to visit one Sunday, about a year ago. He sat at my kitchen table sipping coffee, looking around like he was measuring the place. "Mom," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "this house is too much for you now. It's too big, too empty. Why don't you sell it? Come live with us. Liam would love having his grandma around every day." I felt a warmth in my chest, like a candle flickering to life. Live with them? Be part of their world? I pictured it. Baking cookies with Liam, helping with his homework, maybe even teaching him how to care for roses. Claire would be there, of course, but she'd always been kind. At holidays, at birthday parties. "Ellie, you look wonderful," she'd say. Or, "This pie is heavenly." I thought, maybe this was my chance to have a family again, to not be so alone. I didn't hesitate long. "Okay, Nathan," I said, my voice trembling with hope. "Let's do it." Selling the house wasn't easy. Maple Lane held 40 years of my life. Our life, mine and Robert's. Every room, every scratch on the floor told a story. But I told myself it was just a house. Family was what mattered. The sale went through quickly. Sacramento's market was hot, and I walked away with a good sum, about $300,000. Most of it I gave to Nathan and Claire for the down payment on their new place, a 2-story home on Willow Drive, with a big backyard and plenty of room. I kept a small nest egg for myself, just in case. They gave me a room on the first floor, near the kitchen, so you won't have to climb stairs, Nathan said. The first few weeks were like a dream. I'd wake up to Liam's laughter, his sneakers pounding down the hall. I'd make breakfast, pancakes his favorite, and he'd sit at the counter telling me about school, his friends, the video games he loved. I taught him how to knead dough for bread, the way my mother taught me. We'd laugh when the flour got everywhere, and I'd catch Claire smiling from the doorway. Or so I thought. I didn't see it then, but there were signs. Claire's compliments felt rehearsed. "Ellie, you're so good with Liam," she'd say, but her eyes didn't match her words. Nathan was always busy, always on his phone, checking work emails, even at dinner. And sometimes when I'd talk about Robert, how we met at a county fair in 1982, dancing under string lights, Claire would glance away like she was bored. I told myself it was nothing. Families take time to adjust, right? I was just happy to be there, to have a purpose again, to not be alone in that quiet house, chasing ghosts. But looking back, I was so naive. I didn't know that the home I'd helped build, the family I'd poured my heart into, was about to turn on me. And it all came crashing down on my 62nd birthday. A day I'll never forget. A day that started with hope and ended with me locked in a storage room wondering how my own family could betray me. Moving into Nathan and Claire's home on Willow Drive felt like turning over a new leaf. The house was beautiful, 2 stories with a white porch swing and a backyard that stretched out like an open canvas. I could almost see Robert nodding in approval, imagining the roses we could plant there. I was 62 years old, and starting over wasn't easy. But for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of excitement, a chance to be needed again, to be part of something bigger than my own loneliness. The day I moved in, Liam ran out to greet me, his brown eyes sparkling. "Grandma Ellie," he shouted, throwing his arms around me. "You're going to live with us forever, right?" I laughed, ruffling his hair. "Forever's a long time, sweetheart," I said, "but I'm here now." That moment, it felt like a promise, like I'd finally found my place. Nathan helped carry my boxes, though there weren't many. I'd sold most of my furniture with the house on Maple Lane, keeping only what mattered, a few photo albums, my collection of classic novels, Jane Eyre, Pride and Prejudice, and a silver locket my mother gave me when I turned 16. Claire stood in the doorway, her blonde hair pulled into a neat bun, her smile bright. "Ellie, we're so glad you're here," she said, her voice smooth as honey. "This is your home now." They gave me a small room off the kitchen, just steps from the storage room where they kept extra supplies for Claire's bakery. "It's cozy," Nathan said, setting down a box. "And you won't have to deal with stairs." I nodded, grateful. The room had a single window overlooking the backyard, a narrow bed, and a dresser. Simple, but enough. I hung a photo of Robert and me on the wall, taken at a county fair in 1982, both of us laughing, my head on his shoulder. It made the space feel like mine. Those first few weeks were a whirlwind of joy. I'd wake early, before the house stirred, and start breakfast. Pancakes for Liam, with a drizzle of maple syrup. He'd sit at the counter, swinging his legs, telling me about his science project or the new superhero movie he wanted to see. "Grandma, did you ever want to be a superhero?" he asked one morning, his mouth full of pancake. I chuckled. "Maybe. A teacher counts," I said. "I spent 30 years trying to save the world, one spelling test at a time." He giggled and my heart swelled. I'd been a 3rd-grade teacher before I retired, back when my days were filled with chalk dust and children's laughter. Teaching was my calling, and being with Liam felt like slipping back into that role. I taught him how to make sourdough bread, the kind Robert loved, showing him how to knead the dough until it was just right. Flour would dust his cheeks, and we'd laugh until our sides hurt. Sometimes I'd catch Claire watching us from the doorway. "You're so good with him, Ellie," she'd say, her lips curving into a smile. I thought it was genuine. I wanted to believe it was. Claire was busy, always rushing off to her bakery downtown. It was a small place, Sweet Clover, known for its cupcakes and lemon tarts. She'd come home with stories about demanding customers or a new recipe she was testing, her voice sharp with ambition. This bakery could be something big, she'd say, her eyes glinting. If only we had the money to expand. Nathan would nod, his face tired. He worked long hours managing inventory for a shipping company, always on his phone, always putting out fires. I admired their drive, their dreams. I wanted to help. So I did what I thought was right. The money from selling my house, $300,000, was more than I'd ever need. I gave most of it, about $270,000, to Nathan and Claire for the down payment on Willow Drive. It's for our family, I told them, my voice steady despite the pang in my chest. That house on Maple Lane had been my life with Robert. But this was for Liam, for Nathan, for a future together. I kept $30,000 for myself, tucked away in a savings account, just in case. At first, it felt like we were a team. I'd help with chores, picking Liam up from school when Claire was stuck at the bakery. I'd pack his lunch, slipping in a note like I used to for Nathan. "You're braver than you know." Liam would beam when he found them. I even started telling him stories about Robert, how we'd go camping in Yosemite, how he'd whistle old jazz tunes while fixing clocks. "Grandpa sounds cool," Liam said once, his eyes wide. I wish I'd met him. Those moments, they were my treasure. But slowly, like a shadow creeping across the sun, things began to change. It started with little things. Claire would forget to call me for dinner when they had friends over, leaving me to eat alone in my room. "Oh, Ellie, I thought you were resting," she'd say, her smile tight. My books, neatly arranged on a shelf in the living room, were moved to a box in the storage room. "They're a bit cluttered," Claire explained, her tone light but firm. "We're going for a minimalist look." I tried not to take it personally. Claire was young, 35, with her own ideas about how a home should be. But then came the comments. "Ellie, that sweater makes you look so dated," she'd say, her laugh sharp. Or, "You don't need to cook so much. It's a hassle to clean up." I'd nod, biting my tongue, telling myself she didn't mean it. But each word chipped away at me, like water wearing down a stone. Nathan was no help. He'd come home late, his eyes glued to his phone. When I tried to talk to him about Liam, about the house, he'd sigh. "Mom, I'm exhausted," he'd say. "Can we do this later?" I missed the boy who'd climb into my lap for bedtime stories, who'd tell me about his dreams of being an astronaut. Now he felt like a stranger. The worst was Liam. My sweet. Grandson started pulling away. He'd spend hours on his tablet, headphones on, barely looking up when I spoke. Once, I overheard Claire talking to him in the kitchen. "Your grandma's nice, Liam, but she's a bit old-fashioned, don't you think? You don't want to be stuck listening to her stories all day." My heart sank. I wanted to march in, to tell her to stop, but I didn't. I thought, maybe she was right. Maybe I was out of touch. Looking back, I see it so clearly. The way Claire's smile never reached her eyes. The way Nathan avoided my gaze. The way my world was shrinking piece by piece. But at the time, I clung to hope. I told myself we were still adjusting, that families have growing pains. I didn't know that Claire was weaving a plan, one I'd never suspect. I didn't know that my 62nd birthday would be the day it all unraveled, that I'd find myself locked in that storage room surrounded by boxes of frosting and flour, wondering where I'd gone wrong. Living with Nathan, Claire, and Liam was supposed to be my second chance, a way to stitch together the pieces of my heart after Robert's death. But as the months passed, I started to feel like a guest in my own home. No, not even a guest. More like a shadow fading into the background, unnoticed and unwanted. I was 62 years old, and somehow my life was shrinking, one small cut at a time. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about hurt. It creeps in quietly, like frost on a window pane. At first I told myself I was imagining things. Claire was just particular, that's all. She liked things her way, and who could blame her? It was her house, her family, or so she made me feel, even though my money, $270,000, had bought the roof over our heads. The rules started small. One evening, I was making soup, the kitchen filled with the smell of rosemary and carrots. Claire came home, her heels clicking on the hardwood. "Ellie," she said, her voice sharp, "let's keep the cooking to a minimum after 8. The kitchen's a mess, and I need it clean for tomorrow's prep." I nodded, my cheeks warm with embarrassment. "Of course, Claire," I said. I didn't realize. But I did realize later that she never cooked after 8 herself. It was just me she didn't want in her space. Then my things started disappearing. My collection of novels, dog-eared copies of Austen and Bronte, were boxed up and moved to the storage room next to my bedroom. "We're decluttering," Claire said, waving a hand. "Those old books don't match the vibe." My silver locket, the one my mother gave me, vanished from my dresser. I tore my room apart looking for it, my heart racing. When I asked Claire, she shrugged. "Maybe you misplaced it, Ellie. It happens at your age." Her words stung, but I let them slide. I didn't want to cause trouble. That's what I felt like, more and more. Claire stopped inviting me to join them for dinner when her friends from the bakery came over. "You'd be bored, Ellie," she'd say, her smile tight. "It's just shop talk." So I'd eat alone in my room, listening to their laughter through the walls, my plate of leftovers growing cold. Nathan didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't say anything. He was always distracted, his phone buzzing with work emails, his mind somewhere else. "Mom, I'm swamped," he'd mutter when I tried to talk. "Can we catch up later?" Later never came. The hardest part was Liam. My sweet grandson, who'd once hung on my every word, started slipping away. He'd come home from school, head straight to his room and plug in his headphones. When I'd knock on his door, offering to bake cookies or play a board game, he'd mumble, "Maybe later, Grandma." His eyes wouldn't meet mine. One afternoon, I overheard Claire talking to him in the living room. I was in the hallway folding laundry out of sight. "Liam," she said, her voice low, "your grandma's sweet, but she's a bit out of touch. Those old stories about camping and county fairs. They're not cool, honey. You don't want to be the kid who's stuck with that." Liam didn't answer, but I heard the rustle of his backpack, the sound of him walking away. My throat tightened. I wanted to storm in, to tell Claire to stop poisoning him against me, but I didn't. I stood there frozen, clutching a towel, feeling like I was losing him. I tried to hold on. I'd leave notes in Liam's lunchbox, like I used to for Nathan. "You're my hero," I wrote once, hoping it would make him smile. But the notes came back crumpled, untouched. I'd see Claire watching me sometimes, her lips curved in a way that wasn't quite a smile. "Ellie," she said one day, catching me tucking a note into Liam's bag. "He's 10 now. He doesn't need that kind of thing anymore." I nodded, my chest heavy. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was clinging to something that wasn't there. The rules kept coming. No inviting friends from my book club over. "The house isn't a social club," Claire said. No touching the thermostat. "The bills are high enough," she snapped. "No using the washing machine on weekends. That's when I do the bakery linens." My world shrank to my little room, with its single window and the photo of Robert and me smiling under those county fair lights. I'd sit there staring at his face, whispering, "What am I doing wrong, Robert? Why don't they want me here?" I should have seen it coming. I should have known that Claire's control, her coldness, was building to something bigger, but I didn't. Not until my 62nd birthday. I didn't expect much. Maybe a card from Liam like the ones he used to draw, with crayons and lopsided hearts. Maybe a quiet dinner with Nathan and Claire, a slice of cake. I woke up that morning with a small hope, like a candle flame in the dark. I made coffee, humming an old jazz tune Robert loved, waiting for someone to say something, anything. But Nathan left for work without a word, his briefcase in hand, his eyes on his phone. Liam grabbed his backpack and ran out the door, late for the school bus. Claire was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, her nails tapping the counter. "Morning, Ellie," she said, not looking up. That was it. No happy birthday, no smile, nothing. I told myself it was fine. They were busy. Life gets in the way. So I spent the day quietly, tending to the roses in the backyard, reading a chapter of Jane Eyre. I even baked a small cake, vanilla, with a sprinkle of cinnamon, Liam's favorite. Maybe we'd share it later, I thought. Maybe they'd remember. Around 5, Claire came home, her arms full of grocery bags. "Ellie," she said, her voice brisk, "we're having a little get-together tonight. Just some friends from the bakery, nothing big." I nodded, my heart lifting. A party? Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe they hadn't forgotten after all. "I made a cake," I said, gesturing to the kitchen. "Maybe we could—" "Oh, I've got desserts covered." Claire cut me off, her smile sharp. "The bakery's bringing cupcakes. Everyone loves them." My face fell, but I forced a smile. "Of course," I said. "That sounds lovely." She glanced at me, her eyes narrowing. "Actually, Ellie, we're a bit tight on space tonight. Would you mind staying out of the way? Maybe in the storage room, just for a few hours. It's got a chair, and you can bring your book." I blinked, my mouth dry. The storage room. I don't understand," I stammered. "It's my birthday, Claire." She sighed like I was being difficult. "I know, Ellie, but this is important. For my business. You wouldn't want to make things awkward, would you?" Her voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, like a knife wrapped in silk. I wanted to argue, to say no, but the look in her eyes stopped me. I felt small, like a child being scolded. "Okay," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Just for a little while." She led me to the storage room, a cramped space filled with boxes of bakery supplies, flour, sugar, frosting tubs. There was a folding chair in the corner, a flickering light bulb overhead. I brought my book and my phone, an old model Nathan had given me when he upgraded his. "You don't need anything fancy, Mom," he'd said. I settled into the chair, the door clicking shut behind me. And then I heard the soft scrape of a lock. I stood, my heart pounding, and tried the handle. It didn't budge. "Claire?" I called, my voice trembling. "Claire, the door's locked." No answer. Just the sound of music starting in the living room, laughter, voices. I knocked, harder now. "Claire, please!" Nothing. I sank back into the chair, my hands shaking. The storage room was cold, the air thick with the smell of sugar. My phone was in my lap, its screen dim. I clutched my book, but the words blurred as tears filled my eyes. It was my 62nd birthday and I was locked in a storage room. In the house I'd helped buy. By the family I'd given everything for. I didn't know it then, but that locked door was just the beginning. The beginning of a truth I'd been too blind to see. A truth that would break my heart and set me free. Sitting in that storage room surrounded by boxes of sugar and flour, I felt like the world had turned its back on me. The air was cold, the light bulb above me flickering like it might give up any second. My 62nd birthday. And here I was, locked away like an old piece of furniture nobody wanted. The music from Claire's party pulsed through the walls, laughter and clinking glasses mocking my loneliness. I clutched my phone, its dim screen my only lifeline, and I wondered, how did I end up here? How did my family, the people I loved, come to this? I could have cried. I wanted to. But something inside me, maybe a spark of the woman who'd raised 2 children and taught 3rd graders for 30 years, refused to break. I wasn't just Ellie Marshall, the widow, the grandmother, the burden. I was more than that. And I wasn't going to sit here trapped without fighting back. My phone was old, a hand-me-down from Nathan, but it still worked. A few months ago, I'd done something I never told anyone about. Things had started disappearing. My mother's silver locket, a photo album from my teaching days, even the journal where I wrote letters to Robert after he died. At first I thought I was losing my mind. "It happens at your age," Claire had said, her voice dripping with pity. But I knew better. So, with help from my friend Dorothy from the book club, I'd bought tiny security cameras. "They're easy to hide," Dorothy had said, her son showing me how to link them to an app on my phone. "You'll see everything, Ellie." I'd placed 3 cameras, one in my room, aimed at my dresser, one in the living room, tucked behind a picture frame, and one in the kitchen, hidden on a shelf. I didn't tell Nathan or Claire. Something told me they'd find a way to make those cameras disappear too. And now locked in this storage room, I thanked God for that decision. I opened the app, my fingers trembling. The screen split into 3 feeds, grainy but clear enough. The living room was full of people. Claire's bakery friends, laughing, holding cupcakes with pastel frosting. My vanilla cake sat untouched in the corner like an afterthought. I turned up the volume, catching snippets of conversation over the music. "Where's your mother-in-law?" a woman asked, her voice curious. Claire laughed, tossing her hair. "Oh, she's resting. You know how it is with old folks, always tired." The woman nodded and I felt my cheeks burn. Resting? I was locked away, and she was lying through her perfect smile. I switched to the kitchen feed. Claire was there now, standing too close to a man I recognized, Vincent, Nathan's financial advisor. He was tall, with slicked back hair, and a suit that looked too expensive for a casual party. Nathan had introduced us after Robert died, saying Vincent could help manage the money from the house sale. "He's the best, Mom," Nathan had said. I'd trusted him, signing papers I barely read, believing my son had my back. Vincent came by every few months with reports full of numbers. I didn't understand, assuring me my savings were safe. But now, watching him lean toward Claire, their voices low, I felt a chill. "We're almost there," Vincent said, his voice barely audible over the party noise. "Sunset Grove's ready to take her next month. Once she's in, we can list. The house. Market's hot. Could get 700,000 easy." Claire smirked, swirling her wine. "And Nathan's on board?" Vincent nodded. "He's hesitant, but he'll come around. The debt's eating him alive. He knows this is the only way." "Debt?" My heart skipped. "What debt?" I switched back to the living room, my mind racing, but the conversation was drowned out by music. I opened my banking app, fumbling with the password. It took 3 tries, Robert's birthday, 0523, but I got in. My savings account, the 30,000 I'd kept, was down to 3,000. I scrolled through the transactions, my breath catching. Monthly transfers, 2,000 to 3,000 each, to something called Vincent Wells Investments. I'd never approved those, never even heard of that account. My hands shook as I opened my email, praying for answers. The inbox was a mess, spam, book club reminders, but I searched for Vincent's name. There they were, monthly reports from Vincent Wells Investments, each with a scanned document, my signature at the bottom. Only, it wasn't my signature. The loops were too sharp, the E too angular. I taught calligraphy to third graders. I knew my own handwriting. Someone had forged it. I kept digging, my heart pounding. In my spam folder, buried under ads for hearing aids and cruise deals, I found something else. Emails from my daughter Margaret. My Margaret, who I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. Margaret and I had fought back when she was 27. She'd fallen for Kevin, a carpenter with a quiet smile and a past I didn't trust. Nathan had warned me about him. "He's trouble, Mom," he'd said. "No job, no future. Margaret's throwing her life away." I believed him. When I confronted her, begging her to reconsider, she'd snapped. "You never trust me, Mom. You always take Nathan's side." She stormed out, vowing never to come back. I tried calling, emailing, but she never answered. Or so I thought. Now, staring at my phone, I opened the first email, dated 7 years ago. "Dear Mom," it began. "I don't know if you'll read this. I'm still hurt, but I miss you. Kevin's not what Nathan said. He's kind, hardworking, and he loves me. Please, let's talk. Come visit us in Oakland. I want you to know him. Love, Margaret." Tears blurred my eyes. There were dozens of emails, each one a lifeline I'd never seen. Margaret wrote about her life, her job as a counselor for seniors, her marriage to Kevin. She wrote about trying to call, but Claire always said I was busy or unwell. Claire. She'd blocked. Margaret's messages, sent them to spam, kept us apart. Then I found one email, dated 3 years ago, that stopped me cold. "Mom," Margaret wrote, "I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I need you to know the truth. Nathan borrowed money from me, $20,000, for a business idea that failed. He never told you, did he? Claire blamed me, said I pushed him into it. That's why he turned you against me. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have fought harder to reach you." My breath caught. Nathan's debt, $20,000 owed to his sister, hidden from me. Was this what Vincent meant? Was Nathan so desperate to pay it back that he'd let Claire and Vincent steal from me, send me to a nursing home, sell the house I'd paid for? My own son? I switched back to the camera feed, my hands trembling. Claire and Vincent were in the kitchen again, their voices clearer now. "Nathan's cracking," Vincent said, his tone sharp. "He's guilty about his mom. We need to move fast. Get her to sign the power of attorney next week. Tell her it's for insurance or something." Claire laughed, low and cold. "She'll sign anything Nathan asks. She's clueless, doesn't even check her bank account." Wanted to scream. Clueless? I'd trusted them, yes, but I wasn't blind. Not anymore. I opened Margaret's latest email, sent just a month ago. "Mom," it read, "I'm a mom now. Sophie's 6, and she's got your smile. I tell her about you, show her pictures. She calls you Grandma Ellie. If you ever read this, please call. My number's below. I love you." Sophie, my granddaughter, named after my mother, a child I didn't know existed, growing up without me because of Claire's lies. My chest ached, but beneath the pain, something else stirred. Anger, strength. I wasn't going to let them take everything, my money, my family, my life. I dialed Margaret's number, my fingers shaking. It rang once, twice, 3 times. I held my breath, praying. On the 4th ring, a voice answered, soft and hesitant. "Hello? Margaret?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "It's Mom." There was a pause, so long I thought she'd hung up. Then a sob, raw and real. "Mom, oh my God, is it really you?" "Yes, sweetheart," I said, tears streaming down my face. "It's me, and I need your help." The storage room was cold, the flickering light bulb casting shadows across the boxes of bakery supplies. My phone, pressed to my ear, felt like a lifeline as Margaret's voice came through, trembling with disbelief. "Mom," she said, her words breaking, "you're locked in the storage room? On your birthday?" I nodded, though she couldn't see me, my throat tight with tears. "Yes, sweetheart," I whispered. "Claire? She did this. And it's worse than that. They're stealing from me, Margaret, planning to send me to a nursing home. I need you." There was a pause, and then her voice hardened, steady and sure. "I'm coming, Mom. Stay on the line. I'm calling the police, and I'll get my lawyer friend, Sarah, who handles elder abuse cases. We're getting you out of there." I closed my eyes, relief washing over me like a warm tide. For the first time in hours, maybe years, I wasn't alone. My daughter, my Margaret, believed me. She was fighting for me. But as I waited, the sounds of Claire's party pulsed through the walls. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. My anger flared. How could they celebrate while I was trapped? Here, my life unraveling? I opened the camera app again, watching the feeds. Claire was in the living room, charming her guests, her red dress catching the light. Nathan stood by the window, his shoulders tense, sipping a drink. Vincent, the so-called financial advisor, was in the kitchen talking to a bakery employee, his smile too smooth. They thought they'd won. They thought I was helpless, but I wasn't. Not anymore. Margaret stayed on the phone, her voice a steady anchor. "Mom, I've got the Sacramento police on the way," she said. "They'll be there in 15 minutes. Sarah's drafting an emergency order to freeze your accounts. Can you forward me those emails from Vincent? The ones with the forged signatures?" I fumbled with my phone, my fingers clumsy but determined. "I'll try," I said. Margaret guided me patient and clear as I sent her screenshots of the bank transactions, the fake signatures, and Vincent's reports. "Got them," she said. "This is solid evidence, Mom. They won't get away with this." As we spoke, I heard a soft creak outside the storage room door. My heart jumped. "Margaret," I whispered, "someone's coming." "Stay calm," she said. "If it's Claire, don't confront her. Wait for the police." The lock clicked and the door eased open. I braced myself, expecting Claire's sharp smile. But instead, Liam's face appeared, his brown eyes wide with worry. "Grandma?" he whispered, stepping inside. "Are you okay?" "Liam," I gasped, my voice breaking. "What are you doing here?" He glanced over his shoulder, nervous. "I heard Mom talking to Vincent. She said you were in here, that you'd stay here till the party was over. It's not right, Grandma, I'm sorry." His voice cracked, and I saw guilt in his eyes, the weight of a 10-year-old who'd been pulled away from me. I reached for his hand, my heart aching. "It's not your fault, sweetheart," I said. "You're here now. That's what matters." He hesitated, then hugged me, his small arms tight around my waist. "I didn't mean to ignore you," he mumbled. "Mom said you didn't want to hang out with me anymore, that you were too old." I pulled back, looking into his eyes. "Liam, I will never be too old for you, never," he nodded, wiping his eyes. "We gotta get you out, before Mom finds out." I glanced at my phone. Margaret was still there, listening. "Mom," she said, "if Liam can get you out, go somewhere safe in the house. The police are almost there." "Okay," I said, squeezing Liam's hand. "Let's go, sweetheart." He led me out of the storage room, his steps quiet. The hallway was empty, the party noise covering our movements. We slipped into the kitchen, staying out of sight. I kept my phone in hand, the camera feeds still open, watching for Claire or Vincent. My heart pounded, but Liam's presence gave me strength. He was my grandson, my Robert's grandson, and he was on my side. We crouched behind the counter when I heard footsteps. Claire's voice cut through the air, sharp and irritated. "Liam, where are you?" You're supposed to be in a bed. Liam froze, his eyes wide. I squeezed his shoulder, whispering, "Stay quiet." Claire's heels clicked closer, then stopped. "Oh, that kid," she muttered, turning back to the living room. I let out a breath, my pulse racing. "Mom," Margaret said through the phone. "The police are 5 minutes away. I'm almost there too. Can you get to the front door?" Before I could answer, Liam tugged my sleeve. "Grandma, let's go to the living room. Dad's there. He'll help, right?" I hesitated. Nathan, my son, who'd let Claire and Vincent steal from me, who'd hidden his debt to Margaret, who'd agreed to send me to Sunset Grove. Could I trust him? But Liam's hopeful eyes stopped me. He still believed in his father. For his sake, I nodded. "Okay, Liam, let's try." We crept toward the living room, staying low. The party was winding down, only a few guests left. Claire was by the fireplace, laughing with a friend. Vincent was near the door, checking his phone. Nathan sat on the couch, his face drawn, a glass of whiskey in his hand. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. This was it. No more hiding. I stepped into the light, Liam at my side. My phone clutched like a weapon. "Claire," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. "Nathan, we need to talk." The room fell silent. Claire's smile froze, her eyes narrowing. Nathan looked up, his face paling. Vincent's head snapped towards me, his composure slipping. "Mom?" Nathan stammered, standing. What are you doing here? I thought you were locked in the storage room?" I finished, my voice sharp. "Bye, your wife on my birthday." Claire laughed, a brittle sound. "Ellie, don't be ridiculous. You must have wandered in there and gotten confused. It happens." She turned to the guests, her smile apologetic. "She's been a bit forgetful." Liam shook his head, his voice loud. "No, Mom, you locked her in. I heard you." The guests gasped, murmuring. Claire's face flushed. "Liam, go to your room, now." "He's staying," I said, stepping forward. "And I'm not confused, Claire. I know everything. About you and Vincent stealing my money, about the plan to send me to Sunset Grove, about selling the house I paid for." Nathan's eyes widened. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I held up my phone. The camera feed paused on Claire and Vincent in the kitchen. "I have proof," I said. "You've been forging my signature, taking thousands from my account. And you, Nathan." My voice broke. "You let them, because of some debt you hid from me, to Margaret." Nathan's face crumpled, guilt washing over him. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I owe Margaret money." "Yes, but Claire," said. "Don't blame me." Claire snapped, her voice rising. "You knew what was happening, Nathan. You wanted the money as much as I did." Vincent stepped forward, his voice smooth. "Ellie, you're misunderstanding. All transactions were legal with your consent. We're only looking out for your best interests." "Liar," I said, showing the forged signature on my phone. "This isn't my signature, and I never agreed to any of this." Before Claire could respond, the doorbell rang. The front door opened, and Margaret stepped inside, her face fierce. Behind her were 2 police officers and a woman in a suit, Sarah, the lawyer. "Mom!" Margaret cried, rushing to me. She wrapped me in her arms, and I clung to her, tears falling. "You're okay," she whispered. "I'm here." Claire's face twisted with rage. "Margaret, what are you doing here?" "Saving my mother," Margaret said coldly. She turned to the officers. "This is Ellie Marshall, my mother. She was locked in a storage room by Claire Marshall and manipulated by Vincent Wells, who's been stealing her money." The lead officer, a woman with a calm demeanor, nodded. "Mrs. Marshall, do you wish to press charges?" "Yes," I said, my voice firm. "I do. Vincent paled, his confidence crumbling. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I can explain." "You'll explain to the SEC," Sarah interrupted, holding up documents. "We have evidence of fraud, forged signatures, and elder abuse. And this is a restraining order, freezing all access to Mrs. Marshall's accounts." Claire turned to Nathan, desperate. "Nathan, tell them it's a mistake. Tell them she's confused." Nathan sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "It's not a mistake," he whispered. I let it happen. I was drowning in debt. Mom, I thought this was the only way." Liam looked at his father, tears in his eyes. "Dad, how could you?" I wanted to comfort Liam, but my heart was too heavy. Nathan had betrayed me, his own mother, for money, for a debt he'd hidden. Margaret took my hand. "Come with me, Mom," she said softly. "You're coming home. To me, Kevin, and Sophie. Sophie. My granddaughter." The name brought a warmth to my chest, a promise of something new. I nodded, letting Margaret lead me out of the house, away from the lies, the betrayal. As we stepped into the night, I looked back at Nathan, his face buried in his hands, and Claire, her world collapsing. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't alone anymore, and that was enough. 3 months have passed since that night, my 62nd birthday, when I walked out of the house on Willow Drive, my hand in Margaret's, leaving behind a family that had broken my trust. I'm in Davis, California, now, living with Margaret, her husband, Kevin, and their daughter, Sophie, my granddaughter. At 62, I'm starting over, and for the first time in years, I feel like I'm home. The first time I met Sophie, my heart nearly stopped. She's 6 years old, with curls that bounce when she runs, and a smile so much like my mother's, it takes my breath away. "Are you Grandma Ellie?" she asked, her voice small but curious, clutching a drawing of a flower. I knelt down, tears in my eyes. "Yes, sweetheart," I said. "That's me." She handed me the drawing, her fingers sticky with crayon. "It's a rose," she said. "Mommy says you love them." I hugged her, feeling a warmth I thought I'd lost forever. Sophie. She's my second chance. Margaret's home is small, but cozy, with bookshelves stuffed to bursting, and a backyard where Kevin's built a treehouse for Sophie. Kevin, who I once judged so harshly, is nothing like Nathan described. He's a carpenter, steady and kind, with a laugh that fills the room. "Ellie," he said the first night, setting a plate of lasagna in front of me, "your family. Now, no strings attached." I believed him. After years of Claire's sharp smiles, his sincerity was a balm. Margaret's a counselor working with seniors, and she's been my rock. She helped me open new bank accounts, ones only I control. With Sarah, the lawyer, we've recovered most of the money Vincent stole, nearly $20,000 so far. The house on Willow Drive is still tied up in court, but Sarah's confident. I'll get my share, since my money paid for it. Vincent's in jail, facing fraud charges. Claire's been charged with elder abuse, and Nathan's cooperating with the police, hoping for a lighter sentence. Nathan writes to me every week, long letters full of apologies, explaining how he let debt and Claire's manipulation cloud his judgment. "I failed you, Mom," he wrote once. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'll spend my life trying to earn it." I read his letters, but I haven't written back. Not yet. The pain is still too raw, the betrayal too deep. Maybe one day I'll find a way to forgive him. But for now, I'm focusing on the family that's here, the ones who love me without conditions. Liam comes to stay on weekends. At 10, he's carrying a weight no child should, guilt for his parents' actions, confusion about his father. But when he's here, he's just my grandson, laughing as we bake cookies or plant roses in the backyard. "I'm sorry, Grandma," he said once, his voice small. "I should have helped you sooner." I hugged him tight. "You saved me, Liam," I said. "You opened that door. That's enough." He's healing, slowly, and I'm here to guide him, the way I couldn't with Nathan. Margaret and I are making up for lost time. We talk late into the night, sharing stories I never knew, her struggles, her joys, her love for Kevin. She shows me pictures of Sophie as a baby, and I cry for the years I missed. But I'm here now, and that's what matters. I teach Sophie how to draw flowers, just like I taught Margaret when she was small. We read Jane Eyre together, her little voice stumbling over the big words. And I feel like I'm teaching again, like I have a purpose. The roses in Margaret's backyard are blooming now, red and full like the ones Robert grew. Sometimes I sit out there watching Sophie play, and I feel him with me. "You were right, Robert," I whisper. "Every second counts. I'm not wasting them anymore." Looking back, that night in the storage room was the darkest of my life, but it was also the night I found my strength. I learned that family isn't just blood. It's the people who stand by you, who see your worth, who hold your hand when the world falls apart. I learned that at 62, I'm not too old to fight, to start over, to love. And here's the truth I want to share, the lesson I've carried from that locked door to this new life. You are never too old to reclaim your story. Pain can break you, but it can also build you stronger than before. Trust in yourself, even when others doubt you. Hold tight to the ones who love you, and let go of those who don't. Life. It's not about the years behind you. It's about the moments you choose to live, fully, bravely, with an open heart. So here I am, 62 years old, planting roses with my granddaughter, laughing with my daughter, building a life I never thought I'd have. It's not the life I planned, but maybe it's the one I was meant to find.